Hello all, Alison here. Welcome back to Words and Pictures for a few minutes of fun. If you've got a slight sense of deja vu, don't panic. It's not the same video as last week, but it is a sort of follow-up to another way you can have a play with these stencils and some watercolour paint and using a resist. So you can do this with plain old Vaseline. You could also do this with a wax crayon if you've got a white or a clear wax crayon. I did have a clear wax crayon and it's gone walkabout. You can also of course do this with any of the paint resists that we've used. So you could use white paint through here. You could use a matte medium. These are all episodes that we can do in future. For today I'm using the Distress Micro Glaze, which you have seen in action before as a seal for distress inks. It's one of the ways to seal distress inks so that you can keep the vibrancy of colour and stop them from moving around. I'm using it today as a resist, and I'm not sure this time I'm going to do a full tape down because I'm going to be coming up quite soon. I'm not going to apply this to everything. I want quite a nice rough and ready sort of effect. And you can see this really is very like Vaseline. So I'm going to quite loosely put it into some of these circles in a full-on kind of way, and into some of these circles just sort of round the edges to just catch the circular shape as almost as a side issue, almost as a, I just want the edges caught. So as I'm rubbing this on, it is of course going onto the stencil itself. This will want to be cleaned off afterwards, because otherwise you're going to have all kinds of resist things going on with your stencil in the future that you may or may not want to have happen. So once I've got that on, I can then, that's it really with that. You can probably see the effect of that on there. So I've got quite chunky edges in places. There are places where there's nothing at all. I'm going to do a similar thing here. So just with a little fingertip of the wax, Distress Micro Glaze. It's between a wax and a Vaseline. It's a grease, and it's great stuff for all kinds of different techniques and possibilities. So again, there are times when it's going on quite thickly. There are times when I'm spreading it out. There are times when I can hardly feel it at all, so I really don't know if there's any there. But I'm gonna sort of make sure I get to the edges of here, at least with something. It might just be a line of resist, or it might be a whole square in places. I just want something to create a little bit of texture detail on that page. So again, yeah, I think you can see that in the light. And the final one, this little bobbly one over here, which I really quite like. So again, as I mentioned in the previous episode, these are stencils which haven't had a lot of playtime. And I'm starting to wonder why. Because I love them. So you saw the stencil just slightly kicked up just then. I think it's fine. I don't think there was... But again, because I'm working messy, because I'm working with imperfection, again, I'm pretty much fine with that. So these I'll wash in warm water, maybe with a bit of soap. I could also use a baby wipe. There's no hurry because the glaze is not going to do anything bad in the meantime. So I seem to have completely missed out this central part here. You can see where there was still a little bit of watercolour pigment from the previous episode going down there. So what I might just do, I'm going to try and replace that as closely as possible. Yeah, got it. Because I've got nothing going on in these. Oh, that really did move. Okay, deeply imperfect over here on the bobbly one. Grand. But that's just given me a little bit extra going on. It's also picked up all the stuff from up above. Interesting. Didn't realise that was going to happen. Let's just put a bit back on. Grand. So now what I've got, a lot of invisible stuff on the paper. So all I'm going to do is go in with some very loose. I've got my same American Journey paints on the palette tray. I might use a few others of them this time. So for all those details, do head back to the previous video and find out which colours and why they are and where I got them and la la la. I'm just going to apply them over the top of this resist. I might give it a little bit longer to dry and then do that. While that page is just drying out a little bit, just to give the Distress Glaze a chance to set a little. I'm just trying to remember whether it's okay to heat dry it. I think it might depend on your paper surface, because some paper surfaces, if you heat dry it, you might find that it sort of sinks in and melts in. Others, it might be completely fine. So I'm guessing on the watercolour paper, it might do the thing of just kind of sinking into the paper a little bit. So while that is just sort of setting on the watercolour paper, I'm working onto a couple of my regular manila tags. These are like the original Ranger manila tags. The closest, I think, to it now is probably their heavyweight media paper tags, size 8. And I'm just offering up a compare and contrast so that we'll be able to see the different effect of the paint colours over both the manila card, but also that different card surface. So this one I'm thinking probably the Micro Glaze wouldn't sink into if I were to heat dry it. I think it would probably be fine. But it would be a question of experimenting. Even I need to experiment to remind myself sometimes what products are going to get up to. So I'm just creating a couple of resist backgrounds onto the manila so that we've got a chance to just see how much difference the paper background you use can make. Again, I think you can see in the light there. Grand. That's just been a few minutes over here on just letting that sit. And I think I'm minded to just carry on, and we'll see. If it won't resist, then I'll pause and let it do a bit more setting, as it were. Let's just come over the... Oh, no, it's fine. I hope you can see those circles resisting as the paint goes down. So this is just, again, a loose wash of the similar beachy colours that we were playing with the other day. And the more water I put on, the more that pigment is going to move and play around the waxy resist that's going on underneath. Let's bring in a little bit of that coastal fog. That's automatically getting some Andrew's Turquoise in the mix as well. I just love that coastal fog one, that sand dune sort of summer affair. So this is going to be a whole page. I'm going to take the colour right to the edges and I'm just going to let that play. Let's get a little bit more of that glorious June bug going over here. And there are my little dots. Remember, this one is altogether messier over here, and places in the middle where the paint is going to behave completely differently because there's no resist. I think I might have hit a little bit of indigo in there. Or, oh no, it could be Prussian blue. Could be Prussian blue at that end, I think. So that's just deep sea gloriousness there. In fact, I want a little bit over here. I'm just letting the colours play. I'm just letting the colours mix and move and discover where they've got resist and discover where they haven't. Let's get a little bit of... It's just fun. A few minutes of fun, these episodes are called. And yeah, for me, this is fun. Proper fun, just letting those textures reveal themselves in the background. Where it's really, really watery, there's a different thing going on. You can see the papers curling up, but I'm just enjoying those resist moments in there. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that inky color, painty colour at the bottom here, because I don't want it all just resting there. So yeah, kitchen towel, as always, is your friend. I'm just off camera, aren't I? There we go. It's going on to the next page, but I'm not awfully worried about that, because as I say, it's not an expensive pad of paper. I'm going to pick up some of that through the middle. just to create, again, extra textures. There's a lot of resist going on here. Can you see how that is beading up on the top? So if I just pick up that's going to knock it right back to the wax. But I'm quite enjoying some of those beady patterns. Dropped my brush in the paint now, not to worry. I think I want a little bit of Getz grey through the middle here. And again, you can see it beading here, so that would be perfectly possible to just lift that up. Even after the rest of the paint has dried, where it's sitting over the micro glaze, or over if you've used Vaseline, or if you've used a wax crayon, or even if you've used a gel medium, where it's sitting over that, it'll take a lot longer to dry than where it's over just over the paper. So that's a lovely, messy, mixed media background to have a play with. Again, I'll be able to cut tags from that. Oh, yeah. Okay, let's have these two Manila tags back in play. Set that to one side. Let's bring the craft mat fully into play for the first time today. A little bit of silicone matte because it might get messy. Let's start with some of this indigo just up in this. Now I do need to put that down because I need both hands to hold the tag still. And you can see that's just going on beautifully over the resist texture of the micro glaze. Just, it's like those magical things one used to, your primary school teacher would get you to play with wax crayons and then put paint over. I don't know, maybe your primary school teacher didn't. Elementary school, that is, for those of a transatlantic persuasion. I'm pausing because I'm just enjoying. I've stopped talking because I'm just enjoying the flow of the pigment and the resist and that beading up over there. I'm hoping it's going to be possible to let some of that just dry in place, because I love the beading effect almost as much as all the rest of it put together. And you can see what I mean about messy mixed media here. I'm mixing colours, but that can be rinsed off again. So that gives me a clear thing. And then I've got all these beautiful mixes in the middle, ready already to play. And part of me is wanting to just grab, I did have, yes, so yeah, let me see if I can tear this off, set it aside to dry, and then I can go on to the next page. I'm just throwing that on the floor. Perfect. That's all you need really, isn't it? So rather than resist for this one, I've just got all this lovely wet paint here. I'm going to go through this stencil that I mentioned in last week's episode as one that I haven't used. And I'm just going to do some sponging. So again, the sponge I mentioned in last week's episode and didn't get around to using. I'm going to do a little... So the brush is going straight over the top of that, so that's no good to me. I want to get some pigment down into these areas. So a sponge is always going to be your friend with a stencil, because you can really dip and dab, get it down in there. And this is why I enjoy having a tray like this, which again I started to talk about last week, for some of my watercolour paints. So I will have some in a palette, in little individual pans, but I like having a tray like this because it means that I can do really messy mixed media things with the paints as well. Keep the watercolour pans nice and pristine. I think this might be a really pretty stencil. I think I'm going to regret not having used it sooner. So I'm allowing the paint to mix as it goes down. There, I'm getting all kinds of different shades and shadows. I might put a little bit of this pale coastal fog because we know we love it. And again, I've got paint now all over the trellisy part as well. Let's peel back and see what we've got. Oh my goodness, that's beautiful. Let's flip it over. So this is now a combination of resist and flipping. I'm not sure there's very much on there. Let's see what we get. Oh, don't move, stencil. I want you, like so. Let's see if there's anything. Ah, not much. Not much, but I can't wait to, in fact, I can't wait to spritz this and flip it. I'm going to do it now. What should I do it with? Got pumice stone here. Is this my... Yeah, this is my dead pumice stone. It's very annoying. I keep meaning to clean out the nozzle and not getting around to it. But I can spread that out like so. Oh, in fact, there's still paint on the sponge. Okay, I'm just going to do another... I'm just going to do another sponging of this then. See, this is change of direction as you go. My idea was to get a better flip, but I've actually got caught up in just doing another sponging because it's beautiful. I want a little bit of the... And then because these are watercolour paints, while they're still wet, if I gave that a spritz of water, it would soften, shift things around. But I think it might be too beautiful to do that too. So I'm taped down on one side for the most part. Let's flip up and see what we've got. Oh, another absolute beauty. I think I might need to do another one in the middle. Just irresistible. So I'm going to just moisten that a little bit. I'm going to go in for some of the greys this time because I think this is going to be rather lovely as a grey-green gardeny kind of affair. So getting some sand dune colours this time. That's the Coastal Fog. I think it's the French Grey. Pat's Coastal Blue. Sticking to the greyer tones in the middle here. Just because I can. And maybe a little bit of Andrew's Turquoise gets to go in there. Because the Andrew's Turquoise mixed with those greys is going to give me a sort of weathered greenery, mossy, licheny kind of affair. I'm so glad I thought of getting that out. And some little dark bits to go through in places just to create some contrast. Let's have a look. Three absolute beauties. Absolute beauties. Completely in love with them. Grand. Thank you for that stencil. I'm wondering if a spritz of that might get me something. I've got some tape there that can go in a journal. Might add some stamping to it at some point. Ooh, or hey. Let's... I've got nowhere to keep things to dry now. You go there, you come here. Just thinking that what I could do is come with this very detailed stencil and add some of the darks here. So the indigo, the Payne's grey, just right through here onto this masking tape, I think is going to give us something rather beautiful for a future project. I'm not wrong. That's magic. Let's have another piece. There's another piece sitting here. So that's going to go over the pale background as opposed to over an already painted background. That's going to give us a bit more contrast. Simple as that. Oh, there it is. There it is. Magic. Well, so now I've got 3 more pieces over here. Simply have to happen. Let's put them all down in one go. It will save time. Put them next to each other and then I can just put the stencil over all of them. Oh, maybe not. I think it'll go across. Will it go across 4? It'll certainly go across 3. Like so. You know when you suddenly discover a new love? I think this stencil and I might be destined for great things. It's just any old colour now. It's any old anything that I'm dipping into on the palette. It's mixed in the middle. In fact, this is quite a good way of cleaning up the palette to start a new amount of mess. Just using up the mixy colours in the middle. Let's get this one a little bit of extra stuff going on. Let's go grey. well, Pat's Coastal Fog. Oh, and in fact, it's not grey at all because there's so much stuff now on the sponge. There we go. The magic stencil. I will, of course, be listing the stencils I've used in the description down below, so do check out all of that. Watercolour brushes. Here's just a thought. Don't leave your watercolour brush sitting in there. If it's anything like a decent quality brush, you really don't want to leave it sitting smudged in the water. So yes, clean it out, give it a little bit of a dry off, and let it dry in the horizontal position is the best thing. You also don't want to leave it drying upright in a jar, upside down, because then the water is going to go down into the ferrule. And if you've got a wooden ferrule, this is actually a different kind, so it would probably be fine, but the water would seep down into the handle, and that's going to be bad. Once it's dry, you can absolutely store it upright, but don't put it in a jar to dry like this. Don't leave it in the water like that. If it's a good brush, look after it, and it'll look after you, and it'll last years. I'm blown away by this stencil. So I'm going to pop these onto a piece of card. I'm going to maybe trim up these backgrounds, which are still drying. I've got these backgrounds, which are also still drying. But eventually, I'll be back to share a close-up of some of these backgrounds we've got to play with. Thank you for your company, as always, in these few minutes of fun. Do leave any comments or questions down below, as I say. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, give me a thumbs up. If you aren't already subscribed, it would be a joy to have your company on this creative journey. Look, my messy mixed media hands. Always the sign of a good time. And anyway, there's work to be done in the garden, so how messy the hands are really doesn't matter. Thanks so much for your company, and happy crafting all.